Introduction. Countless things in the universe are heading towards destruction every second, and the vast realm is untouched. No one can stop themselves from disappearing over time. The water surface is stirred up by waves and will soon return to calm. Unless it's the ocean. Rushing forward, thousands of waves converge in one place. They hear the Tao in the morning and die in the evening. Chapter 0. Divine Dragon reverses heaven and changes its destiny. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Dragon, winged, residing in the heavenly realm. In ancient times, the divine dragon descended to earth and opened a path to flow, calm down Kyushu in anger. Beyond the Milky Way and above the vast sky. Eastern emperors worship dragons, believing that dragons can pacify the world. In the land of the East, no one thinks they are not descendants of dragons. Because the dragon opened up Kyushu, humans were able to reproduce and thrive. The so-called solemn sudden whim, since it has suddenly occurred, we also need to be serious. However, this does not limit one's imagination, but instead, it is determined to see what is important to do. Not easily losing motivation due to gains and losses. If a person wants to have a sudden whim, it's too easy. Just having a thought is enough, but it's very difficult to maintain one's original intention and walk solemnly. When humans study the universe, it is often like a blind person touching an elephant. We must break through the limitations of its own structure on all things inside, otherwise we cannot clearly understand its external and more precise grand creations. People view everything in the world and only allow themselves to have one aspect that is either good or bad. Either good is greater than bad, bad is greater than good, or both are equal. Just like scissor stone cloth, if one day, people will never allow each other and themselves to make cloth in the game of scissor stone cloth. So at this point, most people will choose stones in the game. Because if you take the initiative to take the lead, you won't lose no matter what. Anyway, just like myself, others will never make a fuss. After all, most humans only crave for good results, that is, to always see themselves out of stone in the game rather than losing to the other party. However, among them billions of years have passed. Finally they stood between the sea of clouds. Surrounded by the ever-changing stars, all things silently move for tens of thousands of years, corresponding to human beings moving at a speed as short as a second, or even a millisecond, the second person said. Everything in the universe is full of twists and turns, never taking a straight line. From ancient times to the present, it is called the universe, and from all directions up and down it is called the universe. Everything that exists assumes a posture of extinction, and everything that perishes assumes a posture of survival. Everything hovers between life and death with the wheel of time. He turned his head and looked solemnly at the first person of all time, saying, "The flames of the stars drive away the night wasteland." We must remember that the arrangement of the stars, our imprint, will appear here. The breath of power shines brightly, and the tide of stars surges in countless worlds. At that time, the first person in history could not answer him. He did not know where the extreme point of the transition between death and life was, and how, at the end of life, it became death in a strange way. Is it just jumping from 1 to 2 directly? Isn't that too abrupt? How did the universe appear from non-existent to existing? What did it not have at the beginning, and why was it born? Perhaps death is created from birth, and we live in the cycle and microcosm of the universe. Do you think the universe is a spring or a dice? What does winding mean and what does dice mean? I believe that the universe is a winding, referring to the macro level. I think that if you twist the winding, a machine will work. For example, I am going to a place now, and I lifted my leg. The direction of motion is determined, and this thing will definitely happen. Once I get there, the winding will be finished working. Where are the dice? Dice refers to microscopic, uncertain things. You can think of it this way. Unlike the previous second, in this second of the world, I am likely to be indecisive. I am thinking about whether I should go to that place. If I go, it will take me a few seconds. The outcome of everything is uncertain. What's the solution to clockwork? The law of motion of a clockwork is that the universe has already determined when I will do something, but I am not sure myself. For example, when I walk there, it is actually the universe that influences the past and the future, and it knows everything about me. In this way, the thinking of organisms may be a clockwork of the universe. We move according to its set laws, searching for hidden simple principles in the colorful and complex nature. If something happens for no reason, it means that our rational exploration has reached its limit here, because philosophers in history have assumed that determinism is a prerequisite for biological free will. Either we are all gears in a winding device, then everything is predetermined, and our thinking is also mechanical. Either we are the masters of our own destiny, then the universe is ultimately not determinist, so, is dice our thinking. It also refers to the uncertainty of the future. Do you think the future is really uncertain? This. Hiss. How do I answer? I'm in the past, how do I know if the future is certain? In the Dragon Race, one of our great wise men once said, if the universe were a clockwork, then God would not roll the dice. He arranged everything for humanity, including great life and insignificant death, and we were just his clockwork toys. The theist is truly terrifying. However, if we can change this, wouldn't it mean that the world is a dice? We know the future ahead of time, transcending the stars, when he doesn't see us, or when he doesn't pay attention, this world is in a state of neither birth nor death. It is simple to explain this theory. You can see God as a player on the chessboard, and only when he comes can the pieces on the chessboard exist. He made the change and confirmed that his chess pieces were in a certain state. But if he is not around, will this chess piece really not move? The answer may not be no, because he did not observe, and the future is uncertain. Only through his personal observation can the future continue to evolve. However, if we observe the future he has observed in advance, that future will also undergo changes. Because as chess pieces, we observe things that we cannot observe. If we know about the future, it is a change for the future itself. Because we are observing him. On the contrary, if we are God at this moment, we do not observe anything. How do you know how it is moving? In a certain theory, there is an explanation that things can appear instantly anywhere in the universe, depending on human observation. Once you master this ultimate law, you can make yourself exist and die, walk but not walk. Because you can exist in any form, even if it is wrong in human logic. This can also be done because it is correct for you. To exist but not to exist is also a form for you. It also refers to the result that cannot be determined without observation. Lock a cat in a sealed container containing a small amount of poison. There is a certain chance that the poison will be released, and if it is released, the cat will die. If the poison is not released, the cat will survive. If we observe this cat, it is interfering with the future, make it deterministic and logical, because cats cannot live and die. On the contrary, if no one cares, it can be either dead or alive. To exist in a form that goes against logic, as long as no one notices it. They believe that when everything reaches its vertex, existence is destruction. Because you cannot give birth to anything from nothingness, otherwise, nothingness is also existence. Because it comes from something, isn't it gone? Yeah, the other parties sighed until the starry sky disappeared. As for the story of all of this, we have to start from the land many years ago. Tianyan continent, after the death of the eternal emperor 500 years ago, split into tens of thousands of countries, constantly striving for hegemony. No year is peaceful. Humanity has never considered putting down their swords. At this moment, there will be divine dragons crisscrossing all directions, fulfilling the long-awaited wish of all beings for eternity. Chapter 1. Autumn 2000. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The street was drizzling and dripping with rain. Bean-sized jade beads fell to the ground with a clatter, disappearing without a trace, like life 100 years later, integrate into the earth and eventually disappear into the long river of history. Everyone in the world is actually like small raindrops in a heavy rain. I don't know which day you and I will bump into each other, causing our heads to break and blood to flow. The sound of pedestrians taking shelter from the rain woke me up. I am very tired. Since a few years ago, I have been experiencing frequent insomnia. Tossing and turning, unable to sleep all night. Sitting at the bar of the tavern, recovering from drunkenness, temporarily sober up a bit, but the brain is affected by alcohol, it hurts like it's cracked open. I have dreamt of the past again, where I have been criticized for years or even more than half of my life. Almost everyone I know doesn't have a good impression of me. It can also be said that while a person is alive, they cannot avoid right and wrong, and we actually don't care anymore. Just over time. Where did all these people go in the end? I don't know. I actually don't want to recall those past events. I always have nightmares, but I am not afraid. Because my reality is already a daily struggle with a nightmare-like future. It's better to say that sometimes the dilemma that can be changed in nightmares is often at a loss and filled with disappointment in reality. Of course, sometimes when my mood is really good, I feel fortunate to be able to return to the light. However, there hasn't been a chance to breathe a sigh of relief yet. The manipulation of fate once again dragged me into the dark abyss. I long for a bright future in my life, at least living here, where there is nothing beautiful to cherish. After dark, the streets and alleys were filled with dirty filth. After dark, there is no law or order in the darkest place. The weak are in front of those cruel guys, but they are the ones who allow the other party to dominate their destiny and often suffer from abuse. I silently continued drinking alone, not for long. Sitting around were gradually some left green dragons and right white tigers, the guy who is still shirtless and wearing a vest in the winter. Sitting here every night for 3 years. My life is like a clock that runs repeatedly. He lit the cigarette on his lips, shrouded in mist, and then shook his hand and placed the cigarette box in front of them. Say, do you smoke? Thank you, brother, for your generosity. He is truly extraordinary in spirit. A group of people have a great conversation with me, and I occasionally like to help strangers. Don't look at me like this, actually I often buy food for some unfamiliar children. Even the extremely vicious underworld, as long as it has not offended me, everyone can get along friendly. But I have never been too close to anyone. The reason is simple, my evil and ferocity are not worth learning from. Simply put, I enjoy seeking revenge. Of course, it's not revenge on oneself. Rather, it seems that the people who truly have enemies with me have all died, so I have no enemies. As for if you say a few unpleasant things to me casually, I won't do anything, and I won't even take it to heart. Is this insignificant holiday worthy of being called hatred? My favorite thing is to avenge those who are often bullied but cannot protect themselves. Moreover, even if he says that as long as he retaliates for 1 point, I will retaliate for 2 points, making the bully unbearable. In other words, the guy who bullied others used to give back twice as much no matter how much bad he did. If you slapped someone in the past, I will slap you twice now. This is not serious, because you are not a violent person, so 2 slaps are considered light, but it is just a lesson. If you bully others when you have nothing to do, often punching and kicking them. If you reading www.uukangshu.net has been like this for years and even months, then I will double this retaliation. Don't you like to bully others for years? So I will make you enjoy yourself in the future. There is an old saying that goes, a person who only bullies others will not treat them well, because they never know what it feels like to be bullied, and they probably think they are doing good. I want to teach him well, so that he can also feel the double happiness of being bullied. Even having, only getting the same amount of harvest as others is already a way to survive, not to die. But perhaps this is a bit cruel. Secondly, if I don't make friends with others, I still have dim sum to be lazy. I always don't like too many people hanging around in front of me. Recently, government bulletin boards seem to have started to be densely covered with notices and bounties. There are thousands and tens of thousands of bounties on offer. I know I'm not the one who eats this bowl of rice, these guys dare to lick blood on the edge of the knife. And these bulletin boards can be seen in many public places, based on these tasks. In fact, there is a new profession called adventurer. Is that a profession that can harvest flowers and applause? My sister, Wukong, often curious about those worlds. The little girl's nature dictates it, so, she is curious about everything she doesn't know and wants to know. At first, she didn't even know chopsticks and used her hands to grab food. This made me doubt at one point how her former relatives treated her. Wukong probably lost his memory. Chapter 2. Swords and Winds. You are listening at novelfull.audio. I even sent Wukong to school, and she is still a third-year student, but I didn't expect this guy to be like me. It's not even material for learning. I bought her over 100 books, covering history, politics, military, culture, and literature. She was stunned by her fierce learning, and in the end, when she took the political exam, his politics gave me a score of 9. What a similarity. Lousy once scored 9 points in politics. Isn't it just a family that doesn't enter the same door? Wukong, did you copy the exam paper I left at home? I looked at the bulletin board in a daze with a gloomy expression on my face, and in the end, I naturally didn't dare to take on any task. I am not a person afraid of death, it is just, I am a guy with family now. If I really go to the end of the world, can a foolish guy like Wukong live a good life? Sure enough, doing some stable work is suitable for me, right, although I really don't want to think so, at least that's what I think. It's still raining outside the bar, and I said, 100, I don't seem to have any change. I paid in front of the bar, and the landlady who received the money was a promiscuous woman dressed exceptionally well. She probably recognized me and coquettishly said yes. She has always maintained an equal and mutually beneficial attitude towards old customers. Okay, that's already quite equivalent. She wrapped her hand around my neck, but didn't allow me to touch her. Whenever I move, she will burst into laughter, causing everyone around to look over. Don't misunderstand me, I have no feelings for this person, because I am a person who doesn't care about honor or disgrace. In other words, I am cold-blooded and emotionless. Have you been teased? But I am still a bit nervous. After all, I am a young and energetic old man. It's impossible for a woman to be so close to me. I'm still indifferent. Looking out of the bar, I saw a man and a woman again. Are they a couple, right? They are arguing, and it's getting more and more intense. In the man's hand, there is something wrapped in paper. Let him hold it in his hand. Are you still having contact with that guy? I told you not to see him again, and you wouldn't listen. What's it to you? I told you, we're done, don't keep bothering me. The woman's words undoubtedly angered the man. He began to tear open his things in anger and shouted loudly, okay, okay. Then I'll send you to accompany that little white face now. I vaguely realized something was wrong, so I pushed away the boss's wife directly, charged towards them. Ouch! The landlady fell to the ground. But it was already late over there, and the man completely tore open the paper. Cold light has already been revealed inside. That must be the murder weapon. Sure enough, his subsequent actions confirmed my speculation. The man pulled out a short steel knife and fiercely stabbed the woman opposite him in the abdomen. A burst of blood appeared, and when I tried to stop it, it was already too late. There are at least 10 meters left from his position. Moreover, in such a short period of time, he stabbed 5 or 6 times in a row. The woman's whole body and even her heart were suddenly stabbed, and she fell to the ground with a scream, with crimson blood gushing from her abdomen. Someone in the tavern screamed in fear when they saw it, and some turned around and ran towards it. The man roared at the pedestrians on the road again, and the woman who was attacked may not be able to survive. He roared and didn't let anyone get close. A woman with a child sitting on the ground collapsed, shouting for help. The man ran towards the child with a sickly expression, attempting to take him hostage, and with a sickly and crazy smile, said, "Don't move, that's it, stand there." The child was frightened and shivered. I quickly felt behind the man and kicked him with my legs up. Ow! The man thumped to the ground and stumbled up. As soon as I saw him behind me and witnessed his atrocities, immediately picked up the knife and ran away. Go, go. He pushed the pedestrians away in embarrassment and fled far away. I have lost my breath and my pulse has stopped. In just a few minutes, without any help from the people around, a life that was still alive just now suddenly disappeared before my eyes. Why is life so fragile? Fragile to the point where you go out with joy, you can lose your life on the way due to unexpected accidents. Many people who were still laughing with you a few days ago may one day suddenly leave without saying a word. I crouched in front of the woman who was initially stabbed, until I unconsciously clenched my fists and stood up, walking forward. Looking into the distance, I am determined to let that murderous bastard run away as far as possible and obediently roll back to me. And kowtow to the ordinary person he killed to apologize. In this world, any crime can be committed, or even unnecessary. The conflict of interests is an unforgivable original sin in the eyes of the world. Not everyone needs to be tolerated and forgiven. Some people who hinder themselves must be ruthlessly eliminated. They are no longer qualified to be human, only qualified to be ghosts. After they become ghosts, they will definitely be good ghosts. But if they continue to be human beings alive, that's something that's neither human nor ghost. So, I firmly believe that staying calm even when it's time to be angry is the behavior of cowards. Even if displaying anger is to prove something, if one is willing to harm others, such anger must come at a corresponding cost. The best-looking one in plants is called English, while the most powerful one in animals is male. Heroes are top-notch and outstanding like dragons. They are as powerful as dragons, fearless of death and challenges, and those who fight against dragons are called warriors in the West and heroes in the East, so it must be such talents who dare to take the lead. In ancient times, during warfare, the most courageous people charged forward. To be commended, even if you die, you have to be promoted several levels in a row. Their admirable courage is priceless. Sword and Wind. Chapter 3. Watching the Wind and Listening to Thunderbolts. You are listening at novelfull.audio. He ran into the alley, and a moment later, screams came from inside. Then I heard the girl crying, and the man who was almost at a loss slowly walked out of the alley. He still held on to the short knife covered in blood stains in his hand. Under the knife, a girl trembled and shed tears, holding a flower basket tightly in her hand. I picked up a wooden stick on the roadside for self-defense, and the weight was relatively easy to handle. Me. Stubborn resistance leads to a dead end. He said, "Get out of here." The man roared wildly, "Follow me again, I'll kill her." The woman shook her head with a whimper. Is she mute? I don't have time to consider these. Just as we were about to negotiate, the man actually pushed away the girl and directly raised his sword to chop at me. Speaking late, then fast. His knife was in the air, and my eyes couldn't help but freeze. So, how should we deal with it? I was still hesitating, but his knife was already in front of me. Without a doubt, history has entrusted me with the right to choose how to subdue him. Author's words. This is a choice, but as an observer, what will happen next will depend on you. A. Go back and hide. B. Engage in a tough fight with him. Choose decision set now life transport, but also yes life transport of one department branch. Option result A. I first stepped back, but stumbled. The man mercilessly slashed down with a knife. In front of me, a burst of blood flashed by, the girl's crying became even more mournful, with raindrops wildly falling on my face. Did I just die like this? So, as he watched himself fall, the man fiercely cut open his abdomen with a knife. The demon being killed by the demon may also be considered a good ending, at least not nailed to the pillar of shame in history, leaving a lasting impression. I am glad that perhaps I can finally be relieved from the pain of witnessing others die. I died the next day. The police station awarded me a medal for bravery and righteousness because I procrastinated. The man was subdued at the final moment when he wanted to kill the girl, as the police had quickly arrived. From then on, the 2nd Battalion commander can be said to be no longer a villain. However, those who mourn for him are also deeply saddened. Actually, when I think about it, I'm still doing pretty well. Before the last second of passing, I naturally accepted the fact. I have been fighting in a desperate situation where I have never received any understanding for over a decade. I should have turned the tide. However, as long as one sacrifices their life to protect what should be protected, even if you die, it's definitely worth it. Because, someone must fight with blood, only then can there be light in the world. The death of one person is insignificant to the universe. Let's say goodbye forever. From this moment on, my soul will return to the vast and distant past with nothing left. This is the result of this option. Choose decision set now life transport, but also yes life transport of one department branch. Option result B. I don't like this kind of battle. At best, it's just demons killing each other, which will make me replace him as a new demon. But I also have absolutely no reason to back down. Using the long stick grid in his hand to block it, it was not cut off. I stepped back, but my body suddenly lost balance. Ha, ha ha ha. The man burst into a sickly laughter and raised his knife to stab me, and here, let me digress a bit. If one day someone is destined to stumble over a certain stone, then, assuming I know about this, I will appear early and pick up the stone. History will change. Perhaps this person won't fall, so they arrived at the next intersection early and avoided the large truck that crashed 10 seconds later due to stalling, escaped the fate of being hit and killed. The man's knife pierced and was within reach, but he was a little slower because Go blocked him, so I was able to buy time to roll aside. After dodging, I swung my hand and hit him on the head with a stick. Ow! He let out a scream, and I was so angry that I hit him 3 times in a row. The man dislocated his shoulders, and I gave him another full blow. Reading www.uukangshu.net. The man completely collapsed into a pool of blood, with a large lump of plasma gushing out from his head. The whole body twitched violently and then fell into a coma. The mute girl was trembling on the side, staring at me in fear. I dare not say a word. After a while, she vigorously shook her hands at me, crying and begging for mercy with gestures. When I was a child, I had to deal with anyone who provoked me because I acted strangely, so it was once identified as intellectually disabled. Therefore, I have attended disability schools. I also know some sign language. The girl is using sign language to say, "Don't kill me." I won't say it, please. Is that right? I haven't explained it clearly to her yet. Yes, she only saw this man holding him hostage, but as soon as I arrived, I almost killed this guy. Naturally, this girl certainly identified us as enemies, and it is very likely that they are all members of the black and evil forces. In the distance, the voice of someone speaking gradually sounded. The criminal is over there, come on. Has the police arrived yet? I looked at the girl without saying a word and threw the stick into the corner. I picked up a cigarette and took a flower basket from the girl's hand. I gave her some more cloth. Fab is a currency commonly used throughout the entire continent, and some kings even declared war on weaker countries to obtain it. As for why Fab became a hard currency, it was only because it was minted from gold of different purities. Yes, even during times of war and chaos, gold cannot depreciate. Is this money enough to buy flowers? She stared blankly for a moment, nodding to me in fear. I said, "Okay, I'm leaving." Walking on the road, the rain is still quite heavy. Watching the wind and listening to the thunder, the sword emits like lightning. Chapter 4. Dreams of striving for dominance. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. My sister, Wukong, that's an extremely foolish person who always causes trouble, but the girl who is very clingy to me. I love and hate her because she loves to cause trouble too much and even causes trouble in school, causing teachers to make me run to school every day. Sometimes, when I'm angry, I can't help but want to drive her away, but think about how pitiful the little girl is. But if it weren't for her, perhaps, I had already gone crazy and died of grief. Or perhaps one day, with scars piled up, one falls into the cold rain and stops moving. That's right, I am such a person who longs for death. Sometimes, perhaps I still hold on to the belief of persisting in keeping myself alive, but when I see innocent people dying before my eyes. At that moment, I really wish I were the only one who died, not them. This suppressed mood lingers constantly, making me sink like a walking corpse every day. I am very self-blaming. If it weren't for my incompetence, no one should have died today. I never wanted to become a savior, but only silently mourned for the dead. Standing at the unobstructed doorstep in the rain for 3/4 of an hour, I finally took out the key to open the door. The flowers in the flower basket are all wrapped in clothes, but they are not soaked through. After I returned home, Wukong lay in the kitchen. He is biting a lollipop in his mouth. I said, "Wukong, my brother is giving you a flower." "Brother," she ran over with joy and hung it on me, saying, "Are you back?" Me. "Flowers for you." Wukong. "Thank you, brother." She picked up the flowers with a smile and sniffed them, saying, "It smells so good. Will it taste as delicious as a lollipop?" I saw her biting a candy stick in her mouth and said, "You're stealing a lollipop again. Didn't you say you're only allowed to eat one a day? You also took one in the morning." She shook her head and defended herself, saying, "No, brother, I only invited my friends to have lollipops when they came home." Me. Ha. Friend. Where is it? You can talk about it. I haven't even seen a fly. She pointed inside and said, "It's in the corner of the kitchen wall." Me. So, we went to the kitchen together. 2 people are lying by the wall. She curiously pointed to the corner of the wall, and I saw the subtle cracks inside. Occasionally, a few ants come in and out. Wukong asked, "Brother, what are these things? Why do they come to hold the lollipop sticks that I threw on the ground?" That was like yesterday. I rolled my eyes and said, "Is it because you threw candy sticks around that you attracted ants?" Wukong. Ants. Are they all called ants? Don't they have names? It's like me and my brother. My brother's name is 2nd Battalion Commander, and I'm 2nd Wukong. I said, "Even if you have a name, can you recognize them? Look, which one doesn't look the same? That's why we don't give ants names." Wukong. However, despite that, I ultimately believe that, wait until the number of humans reaches billions, or even hundreds of billions, individuals are really no different from ants. I said, "Enough, don't worry about them, ants are everywhere. Don't throw too much sugar here, otherwise they will breed and become rampant." The reason why I am unwilling to kill ants is probably the same as the reason why the universe has not yet eradicated humans, right? I just want to see them reproduce and reproduce some offspring, little ants, so they won't go extinct in the future. The little girl calmed down and then pulled me into the room. "Brother, let's go to bed then." I said, "When can you sleep in separate beds? Everyone is old and big, sleeping together is really not good." "Hey. Did you just say something?" But she ignored my complaint directly. "It doesn't matter. I'm used to it. This girl just likes to play every time she talks about things she doesn't want. It's like this. We pretend to be trying to deceive others, but even though we have a simple good temper, we are often too lazy to nitpick. I am also very tired because I had already drunk a lot of alcohol before coming back. As soon as those eyes closed, it felt as if someone had compressed them with something. I seem to have seen water. It evaporates, evaporates, evaporation, 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 evaporation. The water was gone, and then my whole body lost consciousness. In the dream, stars fly by and time shuttles. Disappointed people, even in their dreams, are lost and fallen. Always having nightmares, and when I wake up, I pull out my sword and look around in confusion, unable to stretch my will. Until I sat on a big stone again, the familiar old man from UU reading www.uukangshu.net arrived. He is wearing a cotton hat and a cotton robe. Sometimes I can see him in the desert, and at that time he was also wearing such thick clothes. You elderly people are really interesting. You always wear so much. At that time, I would ask him why he always didn't change clothes, but he smiled calmly, and what happened today is no different from what happened 3 years ago. There are all 18 weapons, and he and I stand in the strong wind, always fighting. He sometimes imitates my moves, but the same moves. My speed is less than 1/10 of his, and my strength is also less than 1/10. I have rarely been able to resist him in this competition for 3 years. Why do we have such dreams every day? No matter what weapon I use, he uses the same weapon as me. I think he may be a phantom of the deceased appearing in my dreams, thanks to my ominous appearance. Sometimes fights are inevitable, and I've never seen someone lose their head before. Even my heart was calm when holding the Guan Dao. He even struck me hard on the top of my head, and I almost experienced what it meant to open my head. Thanks to his gift, I began to doubt myself as a dummy. I have a fake arm and a fake head. After all, I lost again, and there was no change from before. Although I lost, there was nothing that made me unwilling. After all, his strength and mine were not equal from the beginning. However, if you can't beat it, you still have to fight. Living is not to admit cowardice and bow down, but to fight against difficulties. As long as you can convince yourself not to give up, there is nothing more difficult in life than this. Not doing so will harm oneself, others also want it. So, instead of that, it's better to choose to let oneself suffer first. Go ahead. Chapter 5. Extreme Martial Arts. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The old man is mute, which is the best explanation I can give for everything that must be lacking. He is very powerful. Every fight can put me in a situation where I have been escaping death. However, he never speaks. I will not make any actions to humiliate my opponent. My usual understanding of his actions is that he has a bad temper, and invincible in the world, fully possessing the capital to directly take action when in a bad mood. In other words, his strength can be determined by whoever is unhappy. So the two sat down again. He was very particular about fighting. Stop on time. After finishing the game every day, we have to rest. When we talk, we use branches to write on the ground. But today he suddenly wrote, "After teaching you for 3 years, I should go now." I was surprised that he also remembered the date, but I still wrote, "What's wrong with you? Farewell to you from afar, we must bid farewell. There is no banquet that never ends in the world. It is rare for you to not forget the content of this dream for 3 years, but unfortunately, your spiritual strength will be exhausted." What does it mean? In fact, many people in the world have had this dream because this wave of consciousness is divergent and can affect many people. However, many people also reject this external wave of consciousness, and in an instant, they will forget that they have been interfered with. In modern people's words, this is spiritual manipulation, but it only works for a very small number of people. I took a deep breath. I live in other people's games every day. Actually, just being an NPC is okay, but now even my spirit is not mine. Isn't that equivalent to saying that I'm just a doll determined by the will of the universe? I wrote again, "Who instructed you to do this? Where is your family?" He replied, "No one, my hometown, it's too far away. Perhaps one day you will understand. Don't be a cruel person to the weak." I don't know how to answer him. Is it a distant place? Outside the sky? That is to say, he is a heavenly deity descending to earth. no wonder he crushes me like an ant every day in terms of combat power. To be honest, if it weren't for my willingness to constantly become stronger to protect others. For 3 years, I've been beaten and beaten every day, and now I'm covered in bruises, and blood. Why don't you give it a try? Even so, I often can't bear such pain because it's not just a simple pain, but a dual torment of body and mind. Sometimes I don't even know why I get beaten or suppressed. I hardly see myself getting stronger, and sometimes I get exhausted from it. It's just dealing with enemies that I should be able to defeat, and these simple things often make me suffer unbearably. 3 years have passed, and you are remarkable, you have come all the way through this humiliation. But until tomorrow, you will completely forget all your dreams. I wrote, because I am a villain. In fact, demons and villains work hard, they have everything they should have except for the absence of immortals, but they still want to work hard. But usually there are people who work harder and harder than demons and villains. They have no name, and they have a sense of responsibility and death. I am more willing to be a demon. People without names are noble, and it is not my turn to do it. True pain is something that language cannot express. If a person can express their pain through language, that's just because he can still bear it. Pain itself far exceeds the capacity of the soul to bear. Once true pain is obtained, the pain of the person themselves is greater than the death of the heart, and perhaps there is no desire to live anymore. Sometimes, if you always feel like you've lived enough, this may not necessarily be a good thing. I said, what I owe you, I'll repay it when I meet you in the future. He smiled and wrote, if you don't owe me, maybe I will owe you. Being ungrateful to someone is just a debt in itself. It's better to owe each other in pairs and drink together someday. Me. Okay. His sorrow still has a future, only lingering in the final deep sorrow. The old man gradually turned into a stone, and I embraced my right fist with my left hand. Left is peace, right is force. Soldiers should salute with their right hand because they cannot fear force, but it's best for knights not to use force as a card face. The people can uphold martial arts, but they must never tolerate violence. Far right thinking is not advisable. But we cannot go far left and completely negate the role of force. I waved my sword towards the sky and improvised a poem for the old man on the ground. Mount Taishan Mountain is heavy with light clouds and light wind, and gratitude, resentment, honor and disgrace are all dusty. There is no need to be afraid of the tiger's den in Longtan, as the sword and halberd cluster has been fiercely fighting for a long time. Reduce a bit of idle and resentful energy, why bother dying with a feather if it's light? Adding a touch of ambition and passion, what can we say if we live up to our righteousness and die? Anyway, I am deeply impressed by the great kindness of this old man, at least he can be considered a rare confidant. The dream collapsed right here. Chapter 6. Chasing the Stars in Lee Zero. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Boom. In the latter half of the night, I was awakened by a thunderous explosion. People are always restless, and when they sleep, they will be awakened by any slight disturbance. But is this just thunder? I think it's very abnormal. And the story between me and the old man was recorded in a notebook by me that night. And the next day, I forgot about his existence and instead remembered it through reading my diary. Gradually, it was already over 4 o'clock, after reading the book. The thunder showed no signs of stopping, but instead became increasingly fierce and violent. Boom boom boom. The thunder echoed one after another, making people feel dizzy. I felt so familiar with this scene that it suddenly jumped up without saying a word. How could this be? When I found Er Wukong on the street, it was similar to today. What exactly happened in the sky? I stood at the door with a shocked expression on my face, until a white light broke through the sky and flickered, flying far away in the sky. At this moment, the future once again handed over the right to choose to me at that time. Author's words. This is a choice, but as an observer, what will happen next will depend on you. A. Go out and take a look. B. Continue sleeping. Choose decision set now life transport, but also yes life transport of one department branch. Option result B. Maybe it's electric light, right? Although thunder in winter is somewhat abnormal, I lay down in bed, decided to forget these things and continue sleeping. So, in a daze, I gradually closed my eyes. In the following days, nothing major happened, only the news of the man being killed came out, until the third day, the police came knocking on the door. Are you the 2nd Battalion commander? After sneering, he suddenly pulled out his crossbow and fired at me. I fell into a pool of blood and only then did I hear his voice. What did my younger brother do wrong? Why did you want to kill him? My eyes gradually darkened, and in the end, my death is defined as an headless case of robbery-murder, and because there is no evidence, I don't even know who has been here before, it's just a hasty matter. And Wukong was also killed on the night of my death. The cold rain lasted for more than 10 days in a row, but for whom? The Great Road is intangible, and heaven and earth are merciless. So, this is the result I obtained through this option. Choose decision set now life transport, but also yes life transport of one department branch. Option result A. Perhaps I need to go out and take a look. I rushed into the backyard and pulled out a tall red horse from the stable. I call it Breeze. As the name suggests, this horse runs as fast as a gust of wind, crossing the water like walking on a flat ground. I also took the knife on the wall. Jump on the horse and rushed directly into the rainstorm. Quangfeng was bought by me from a bankrupt horse ranch owner for over 3,000 francs. At that time, it was still a young horse, but 3 years had passed, it has straightened up and is already as tall as me. Mount the horse and lift the knife, the white light rushed towards the sky. I plan to figure out what's going on. Is that the place where Wukong lives? If so, then I will send her home. Because if Wukong keeps following me like a fugitive, there will be no good end. Every year during ancestor worship, I wonder who my ancestors are. Which direction do you live in? I don't know where to kowtow. I don't want Wukong to face the same fate as me. The speed of the strong wind is already very fast, but I still hope it will be faster. Keep raising your knife and riding your horse until you reach the intersection. I have a premonition that I am not far from that white light. I said, Breeze, if you understand the pain in Dancing Hollow, charge me. It seemed to understand my words, lowering its hair and making a hissing sound, run wildly. Chasing until in front of me, the white light in the sky is above my head, hold on to the reins and cut with a horizontal sword immediately, the rain soaked all over me. There was only the mournful sound of rain around, and I looked up at the white light. I still can't see clearly what's on top of that. Gradually getting a little annoyed, no matter what it is, if you leave the dance empty his mother. If she has no father or mother, then you are a sinner. I restrained the reins and prevented the horse from twisting. Taking a deep breath, he shouted to the night sky, come down, dog. Son of a bitch. The light suddenly flickered a few times, and I thought it was effective, so he angrily said, fly, fly, fly NM. The light suddenly disappeared, but at the same time, I began to feel it. It seems like something is falling down towards here. Chapter 7. Single Sword Meeting with Dragons. You are listening at novelfull.audio. No matter what I see next, I can only be on high alert. After all, if that light were conscious, he could never fly over and gave me a thumbs up, saying, you're good at cursing, you're good at cursing. Look at what you can do, why don't you fly up to the sky and stand shoulder to shoulder with me? Okay, if I have a pair of invisible wings to take me off, then I will. Finally. A huge black shadow, I was simply stunned, it fell straight down in the air, even as if it was about to hit my head. The rain was hit by a massive figure, and water splashed everywhere. I jumped back and finally didn't let this meteorite-like object hit me. The black shadow fell onto the earth. Startled by the strong wind, he jumped up high. You almost fell to the ground. If it weren't for me timely picking it off its back, it's really hard to say. I said coldly to Black Shadow, are you a relative of Wukong? If you don't know Heir Wukong, I can tell you that 3 years ago, I was wandering here, she fell from the sky. Is this related to you? Tell me. Duk, Kanbu, Laner. This mountain-like shadow roared low, replying to a pile of language that I couldn't understand at all. Fan the black wings, the strong wind blows out, it gives a strong sense of pressure. It lurks in the darkness, at least 3 times taller than me. Lahasi. It lifted its head towards the sky and let out an extremely majestic roar. I was amazed to speculate what it wanted to do when countless black shadows as huge as it fell from the sky afterwards. At this moment, I finally saw what these massive things, just like it, were. Originally, there were huge dragons everywhere. They fell one after another from the sky. This is really the worst consequence what's going on here. Just as I was shocked by the scene before me and had doubts due to my inability to understand the language of the dragon. They heard the instructions of the dark figure one by one, and surprisingly, they angrily attacked me. I never expected the other party to take the lead. I angrily said, you have seeds. Swinging a knife and rushing towards it, the strong wind roared with an imposing force, I am not afraid of my opponent's strength. But at this moment, the dragons began to retreat continuously. A red giant dragon, who spoke human language, walked out of it and said, the scent of the dragon clan, how could you, a mortal, have it? And it still smells like a unique lineage of the imperial family. I said, a few years ago, I found a girl here. Is she your relative? He transformed into a golden-haired humanoid man and shouted in a majestic anger, if you imprison the people of the dragon clan, you will not have a good end. A few years ago, we did indeed lose a princess here. She is a dragon princess. According to the dragon's creed, those who kidnap the dragon clan must be executed. After he finished speaking, he said expressionlessly, you must release her immediately. Otherwise, Apophis the Great will be extremely angry. To be honest, Laozi is also a person who never likes to explain things to others in a lengthy manner. When he encounters someone who doesn't agree, he may even be a swordsman. But I still grabbed the knife and shook it in the rain. I said, it's okay to let your dragon tribe compatriots go, but tell me, what will you do with her in the future? The other person replied, she is just a dragon born from her concubine. Although she has bloodline, she has no domineering aura. She has not inherited the majestic legacy left by her ancestors at all. Don't worry, we will not mistreat her, but she has no other choice. The so-called Imperial Dragon must appear to protect her fellow dragon race and shine brightly. Therefore, spending her life under surveillance and the Emperor's orders is the best choice. Isn't this equivalent to house arrest? If so, why is Irmo afraid of everyone's presence? Don't meddle in things you can't stand, no matter how boring they may be. You'd better retract what you said earlier. If you imprison Wukong, then, to be honest, I'm a sister control, I don't agree with your rude and unreasonable behavior. The dragon clan burst out with a burst of mocking laughter one after another, and the male dragon only said, humans, if you don't receive a warning, you can only suffer the consequences on your own. Listen, the royal lineage of the dragon clan has been incredibly pure for thousands of years. Do you think we will let the Emperor Dragon live elsewhere? If she casually combines with other compatriots, or even other creatures, this is a symbol of slandering the supremacy of the dragon clan. Huanglong must never be associated with anything of low status, including you. She will either marry a member of the royal family in the future. Either end up alone, but what about that? People born in the royal family are destined to have worry-free clothing and food. I pointed a knife at his head and said, it's amazing to make her worry-free. I can do it too. So, does it seem like it's the same for her to be with me and your emperor? They all got angry and pretended to rush towards me. I believe that if this were to distribute a pair of scissors to each of their warriors, they would come over and cut me into pieces with a click. Because their eyes tell me they will. Wait a minute. The dragon, who had turned into a man, stopped them and said coldly in the rain, although we are not afraid of violating the dragon's creed, this thief indeed deserves to die, but the safety of the royal family members must be guaranteed, and no one can be sure if he has any accomplices. Behind him, the giant dragon in the dark shadow squinted its eyes slightly. With a deep roar, he shouted, Padu, Telp, Ka.nuz. The dragons all retreated to one side again, and everything in front of them was truly too vague and illusory. It even makes people think they are still dreaming. I lifted my knife and the gust of wind spun twice in place. The rain has stopped at some point. I said, fight without fighting, retreat without retreating. What else is the dragon's creed that makes me sad? Was the dragon's creed made for you to avoid battle? The male dragon was furious and said sternly, you are the most courageous human I have ever seen. How dare you challenge the dragon race boldly? My dragon race is immortal, and with your ridiculous body, you dare to show off your strength. After he finished speaking, I immediately drove away on horseback, leave them a distant silhouette. After all, there is nothing to talk about. The other party has no intention of accepting Wukong and even wants to imprison her. Moreover, in order to preserve the royal lineage, Wukong also had to engage in inbreeding. As he rode his horse, the other party angrily said, stop him, don't let this mortal run away, he kidnapped a member of the royal family. The giant dragon, who only spoke dragon language, shouted in a cold voice, APD, Maluo. Do not see. All the dragons rushed towards me together. Chapter 8. Chong Ah. You are listening at novelfull.audio. To be honest, all 18 types of weapons are versatile, although at that time, I had already forgotten about the old man who had taught me martial arts. But the subconscious of combat in my bones cannot be eliminated. This thing is like muscle memory, making me instinctively wield a knife to kill. However, I still don't intend to turn my back, I just want to leave some space to talk to them. The dragon race is catching up, and I have to turn back to confront them. Waving his sword, he pushed them back slightly, and the man rushed over. He said in a faint voice, use a knife against me. That's great. So, you're a qualified warrior, and the dragon clan will hold a grand funeral for you after eliminating you. Your courage will be recognized by the dragon clan. 500 years have passed, and no mortal is not afraid of the dragon clan. No one dares to use a knife against the dragon clan. You're interesting, but you'll pay the price for your arrogance. You'll have no flesh or blood left. Only this courage that made you perish remains. Oh, and your fellow countrymen, the emperor's anger will make their blood flow into a river, and the rest of the lowly can only remain in ruins. Between the walls and the tiles, we are struggling to survive. Ha ha ha, but this is your destiny. In the struggle for power, the weaker side will never have the truth and can only become me. A lot of nonsense. Returning to the horse and dragging the knife, he directly struck his skull, but surprisingly, this blow was completely ineffective. The blade struck heavily on his head, only emitting a metallic impact sound like a bell. Is this guy a tough guy? I hadn't figured out the problem yet, so he pushed open the knife and rushed over. Our power is vastly different, just like ants. How dare we be enemies with the divine dragon? He slapped me off the horse, yes, just with his hands. The strong wind also fell, emitting a mournful cry of fear. After falling off the horse, I quickly got up from the ground. A ball of light condensed in the man's hand. He threw it directly at me, not daring to be careless. I quickly pulled the reins of the fast wind and forcibly pulled it out. Boom! The power of that light ball is really too strong, and a burst of smoke fills the air. A small black cloud rises, like a mushroom. Getting on the horse again, the gust of wind caused a fall. There is blood around the mouth. I loudly said, horses are innocent, and swords are also innocent. It is the people who use them who are guilty. You can kill me, but spare this horse. This is also for your own benefit, slaughtering some innocent lives, which is detrimental to Wuda. He laughed and said, I am a defeated general under my command, and I dare to negotiate conditions without authorization. Me. Are you saying that to eliminate everything? He said, yes, you'd better be honest and explain, where exactly are the members of the dragon clan who were kidnapped by you? I said, you kill me and see if my body will tell you where she is. Ha ha ha. He laughed up in the sky, transforming into a majestic and infinite dragon, a pair of dragon eyes shining with vitality. Wei shouted, Pai Fu, it's quite admirable, he's not afraid of death. You know, many weak creatures tremble with fear when they see the dragon. We can take a breath of air and crush you to death. Crush it to death. I squinted my eyes and said, crushing to death is just a way to die, so let's just die. The dragons all stood solemnly beside them, their roars sounding like horns, all raised to the sky and roared. I squinted my eyes and stared at the massive divine dragon. As the saying goes, life is also what I desire, and righteousness is also what I desire. If you can't balance the two, you may not even want your life. To fight and fight for the strong, death is also worth it. Since I am already a fool, why should I abide by the intelligence set by wise people? If one only follows their intelligence when doing things, fearing that they may violate it slightly, then nothing can be accomplished. The heavy knife kept dragging on the ground, emitting a burst of sparks. I was speechless and rode my horse straight towards the enemy line. With a fierce slash, the dragon's skin was unexpectedly damaged. He angrily said, it's been 200 years, you're the first guy to hurt me. Without a doubt, I may die for this knife. But even in the future, give me 100 or 10,000 opportunities, I can also chop it. I don't know if my actions are correct, but sending my loved ones to be imprisoned. This kind of action, not to mention justice, is a humble and perfectionist desire to survive, willing to sacrifice others, which proves that you are just an ant. And now is the time to show my strength. I am neither afraid of ridicule, I'm not afraid to die either. The death of losing everything, even if repeated many times, is the same, knowing one's cowardice and insignificance, yet still getting up. So there won't be any falling on the road. What's the use of crying and feeling discouraged? Fate still lies before us. Nowadays, if we cannot gain the understanding of others no matter what, we must fight alone. The so-called people may have reached a desperate situation, perhaps they are no different from the dragon race that follows the creed of the dragon, right? Resolutely strike a sword at those who have once bullied and belittled oneself, let's shout and rush, it's something that can be accomplished no matter what. My name is Captain Air, remember this name or forget it. And at that time, I never expected, the Dragon Creed has chosen me for this reason. Go ahead. Chapter 9. Death in One Case. You are listening at novelfull.audio. A thunderbolt immediately struck from his hand, with astonishing speed, not even the time for the reaction is given. After I understood what had happened again, my body had already plummeted straight towards the horse. Still holding the reins in his hand, he ended up dragging down even the gust of wind, heavy impact on the dusty earth. A mouthful of blood spurted out from my mouth, blurring everything in the rainy night. After the sun sets, it will go to another place to shine brightly. It won't rest, but there are always some people who think the sun has abandoned them and run away. But perhaps one day, after the sun sets, it will really not appear again. What is that thunder? I can't figure it out, but there's one thing that seems very clear, I am powerless to fight anymore, the opponent only used a thunderbolt to make me face death. He transformed into a human form, with blood on his head, it turned out to be a cut. The divine dragon transformed into my form and respectfully said, I remember you, captain of the human 2nd Battalion. Facing an invincible enemy, you fought to the end with blood. I will fulfill you and let your courage endure forever. The ancestor of the divine dragon. You will bless him with supreme glory and strength in the next life. My chest was torn by lightning, and I lifted my head with a bitter smile, the figure in front of me clearly grew quite tall. Glory. Mighty. Continues to vomit blood, you are a complete fool. All I know is that you remembered your name and died, and I have lost a chance that could have been fair and anonymous. I am already a villain, so I never cared about anything you said. He didn't want to talk nonsense, and a lightning bolt swung towards him. I closed my eyes helplessly. Goodbye, Wukong. After I die, you must not be found by them. I unconsciously said, run, dance in the air. After the words fell, the explosion of lightning suddenly sounded. With a flash of white light in front of me, I began to feel like I was dead. But there's no pain, what's going on? When I was amazed, I heard a weak voice. Brother is clearly my favorite person. No, I can't. He opened his eyes in a panic, and the bloodstains at the corner of Wukong's mouth were very glaring. She laughed bitterly and hugged me. The two of them rubbed their faces back and forth, and Wukong also fell to the ground. I can't help but remember how unpleasant my past was. I used to be different from my brother, like a dragon. But now, I clearly feel that my brother is the only person worth cherishing. He won't be like any other dragon. You don't dislike me or drive me away. The smell on my brother's body is nothing but my favorite. I want to die with you, and it's not a problem to die obediently by smelling your scent. Fool. My voice trembled as Wukong smiled and closed his eyes, saying, Brother, Wukong likes you. She didn't react. I never expected she would find me, and why did she stand up at this moment? In that case, what's the use of me saving you? Wukong, you made me fight for a meaningless future, you have let me down as well as yourself. Between heaven and earth, lightning and thunder gradually flicker. I let out a loud roar as I looked up to the sky, with sadness, anger, and a thorough expression on my face. Life is full of misfortune, and I know I don't have the ability to change anything. I always face the future in a daze and just muddle by. However, from the first day of life. Now even the only existence that I consider a family member is leaving me. In the vast world, in the vast universe, I am destined to endure endless incomprehension, endless suffering, and walk numbly in it. At that moment, the strong anger made me stand up again. The dragon clan remained silent and said, I mistakenly killed the imperial dragon, violating the creed of the dragon, which is a great crime. I roared wildly at him, who cares who you killed? If you have the ability, just kill me together. Hurry up and take action. Holding on to Wukong, who still smiled, she had lost her breath. Has Wukong already died? I said, dignity can be a meal to eat. The dragon clan can't even bear a little offense, you deserve to bear this anger and are punishing yourself. He raised his weapon high and angrily said, there is no need for outsiders to guide the affairs of the dragon clan. The universe is of the same origin and has done something wrong, those who scold you are actually guilty. Am I supposed to die instead? You narrow-minded guy, even if you're arrogant, you have to have some limits. When you die, it's not like me rotting your body and turning into air. Even if you're an invincible immortal emperor when you're alive, you won't be able to escape old illness and death. If that's the case, Pai Fu doesn't have the right to accuse you, right? Can't ordinary people say something unpleasant to you? It's said that people don't have self-awareness, but there should always be a bottom line, isn't there? Today is the emperor's son, who killed my family and harmed your emperor's daughter. You should also pay for it. Gripping the Guan Dao tightly with cracked eyes and canthus. He was angry and flew a lightning bolt towards him.